The throne chamber of Velmora Prime was not built for mercy. Its ceiling arched higher than any cathedral on Earth, carved from living crystal that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins. Every surface reflected power, ancient, absolute, unquestioned. At the far end of the chamber, elevated on a dais of obsidian and gold, sat the Queen of Velmora. And in the center of the chamber, alone and unarmed, stood a human. Captain Jonah Reed kept his hands visible, fingers slightly curled to hide the tremor running through them. He had faced orbital bombardments, pirate ambushes, and vacuum breaches, but nothing compared to the weight pressing down on him now. This was not fear of death. This was the pressure of standing in the presence of a being who decided the fate of worlds with a gesture. Beside him stood Lyra. She was Velmoran, tall, silver-skinned, her eyes glowing faintly violet. Once a royal strategist, now a traitor. She leaned closer to Jonah, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't understand," she said. "You can't protect me from the Queen, human." Jonah didn't look away from the throne. "Watch me." Lyra stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. The Queen rose. The sound echoed like a seismic event, the chamber's crystal walls resonating with her movement. She was magnificent and terrible, crowned with a circlet forged from collapsed stars, her long robes flowing as if gravity itself bent for her. "Human," the Queen said, her voice layered with harmonic overtones that vibrated in Jonah's chest. "You stand before the sovereign of Velmora without kneeling." Jonah swallowed. "On Earth," he said steadily, "we kneel by choice, not fear." A ripple of shock passed through the gathered nobles. Lyra closed her eyes. The Queen regarded Jonah with cold amusement. Bold words from a species that still struggles to unify a single planet. Jonah finally turned to face her fully. "And yet," he said, "here I am, still standing." The beginning. Why he stood where he didn't belong. Jonah hadn't planned to challenge a queen. 6 months earlier, he was a security officer assigned to a joint human, Velmoran research station on the edge of disputed space. Lyra had been the station's liaison, brilliant, guarded, and openly critical of Velmoran expansionist policies. They talked. At first about trade routes and protocols. Later about philosophy. About power. About guilt. Lyra had been the one to tell Jonah the truth. The Queen plans to cleanse the outer systems, she had said one night, her bioluminescent markings dim with fear. Billions will die. Human colonies among them. Jonah reported it. The Velmoran response was swift. Lyra was branded a traitor. Accused of treason. Scheduled for public judgment, a ceremony from which no one returned. Jonah had one option. He took her and ran. They didn't get far. Now, standing in the throne chamber, Jonah realized how utterly insane that choice had been. The Queen descended the steps of the dais, each step measured, deliberate. "You claim to shield one who betrayed her throne," she said. "Why?" Jonah glanced at Lyra. "Because she was right," he said. "And because she chose truth over loyalty." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "And you would defy an empire for that?" Jonah nodded. "Every time." The middle, what it means to protect. The Queen circled them slowly, like a predator considering whether prey was worth the effort. "Lyra of Velmora," she said. "You accuse your sovereign of cruelty, of genocide." Lyra's voice shook, but she spoke. "Yes, my queen." A murmur spread through the chamber. The Queen stopped inches from Jonah. "You believe this human can protect you?" she asked Lyra softly. "From me?" Lyra's shoulders sagged. "No," she whispered. "I know he can't." Jonah stepped forward. "I didn't say I could beat you," he said. "I said I'd protect her." The Queen laughed. A terrible, beautiful sound. And how does a human intend to do that? Jonah took a breath. By making you look at her. The queen's amusement faded. She's not a statistic, Jonah continued. She's not a resource or a political inconvenience. She's a person who stood up to power knowing it would destroy her. He met the queen's gaze. Isn't that how Velmora was founded? The chamber went silent. Ancient history, spoken aloud by an outsider. The queen's eyes flickered. Lyra stared at Jonah in disbelief. You would shame your queen with human sentiment, the queen demanded. No, Jonah said. I'm asking if you still believe in the ideals you claim to rule by. For a moment, Jonah thought he had gone too far. The queen raised her hand. Energy gathered. Lyra gasped. Jonah didn't move. If this was where it ended, so be it. Instead, the queen lowered her hand. Explain, she said quietly. Jonah exhaled slowly. You rule through fear because it's efficient, he said. But fear breeds rebellion. Lyra isn't your enemy. She's your warning. The queen turned to Lyra. You accuse me of becoming what I once overthrew. Yes, Lyra said, tears shimmering. And I feared you would kill me for saying it. The queen was silent for a long time. Then she asked Jonah, if I spare her, what do you believe happens next? Jonah didn't hesitate. She helps you change course. Or she walks away. Either way, fewer people die. The queen studied him. You would risk your life for someone not of your species. Jonah shrugged faintly. That's kind of our thing. The ending, when Watch Me changed an empire. The queen returned to her throne. The chamber waited. Finally, she spoke. Lyra of Velmora, she said, you are stripped of rank, but not of life. Lyra collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The queen raised a hand for silence. You'll serve as an external auditor, she continued, with full authority to challenge imperial decisions. Under human supervision. Gasps erupted. The queen turned her gaze back to Jonah. You have interfered in matters far beyond your station, human. Jonah straightened. Yes, ma'am. And yet, the queen said, you reminded me of something I had nearly forgotten. She leaned forward. Velmora was not built on fear. It was built on defiance. Her eyes softened, just slightly. You are dismissed. Both of you. They didn't wait for her to change her mind. Years later, Jonah stood on the balcony of a rebuilt Velmoran council hall, watching ships depart peacefully instead of in conquest. Lyra joined him, wearing the insignia of her new office. You know, she said, most people would have run. Jonah smiled faintly. Someone had to stand in the way. She looked at him. I meant it that day, she said. You couldn't protect me from the queen. Jonah met her gaze. Maybe not, he said. But I could make her stop and think. Lyra laughed softly. Human audacity, she said. It's terrifying. Jonah looked out at the stars. Yeah, he said. We've been told. And somewhere in the halls of power, a queen remembered what it meant to rule, not by fear, but by choice. That was HFY. Not because a human won, but because a human refused to step aside.